Hey, hope everyone's doing okay. Today I want to do a sequel to one of my earlier videos. So, some time ago I talked about my love of Masks: A New Generation, a superhero role-playing game based on the Powered by the Apocalypse system. Like other PBTA games, it uses playbooks, similar to classes in other RPGs, and in a standard game, no two characters can use the same playbook. In the campaign I was in last year, I used the Protégé playbook, and I had a really good time with it, and with Kid Manta, my water-powered 80s teen superhero. But what about the other playbooks? What character might I have played if I'd picked one of those others? I tackled this in a previous video, coming up with character concepts for the Beacon, the Transformed, and the Delinquent. And today I want to look at the Bull, the Legacy, and the Outsider. Why those three playbooks specifically? Well, because those were the ones chosen by the other players in the campaign. The ones that were definitely off limits. Let's start with the Bull. So in our campaign, the role of the Bull was taken by Savage Rage, a dude bro with superpowered kung fu who got his powers from a mystically poisoned energy drink. Yeah, it was that kind of game. But in another timeline, Dario Sanchez was your typical nerd. Straight A student, preferred books to sports, perfect target for the school bullies. Dario fantasized about fighting back, but even if he had thought that he'd stood half a chance, his father repeatedly counselled against violence. It was violence that had taken Dario's mother, not that Dario knew the details. She had died when he was just 2 years old, and his father never spoke of it. All they had left of her were a few photos, and a hummingbird necklace now worn by Dario's younger sister Elena. But the incident had changed his father's perception of the world, resolving him utterly against violence, and he passed on his pacifist stance to Dario and his sister, sanitizing the TV shows and movies they could watch, the music they could listen to, and the games they could play. Dario had to sneak round to his best friend's house if he wanted to play Street Fighter. Dario's father was an archaeologist. He was often away on digs in South America, leaving Dario and their sister in the care of their Aunt Rosa. And it was during one of these absences that the skeletons attacked. It was a full moon. Dario had been woken by a nightmare, only to find the nightmare becoming real as skeletons poured in through the windows of their house. Dario rushed to wake his family, and as Aunt Rosa rushed from the house, Elena bundled in her arms. Dario held back to buy them time to escape. In stronger hands, the frying pan might have been more effective, but the kitchen implement was soon wrenched from Dario's limp arms. "Despair, as your mother despaired!" the lead skeleton hissed, before plunging an obsidian blade into Dario's chest. Dario was not expecting to wake up again, but wake he did, with the hilt of the blade still protruding from his ribcage. That was not what caused him to scream, though. That would have been the giant female skeleton with the ragged butterfly wings towering over him. "What happened?" Dario asked. "Where am I?" "You are in Temuenchan, the paradise of the dead, and I am its keeper, its papalotl. You were slain by the enemies of light, just as they slew your mother, and as they are going to kill your sister." "Elena?" Dario sat bolt upright. "I have to help her." "How?" the goddess asked him. "You are dead." "I don't know, but I have to do something." "I can give you power, little one. The power to hunt down my enemies. You have only to swear loyalty to me." "I swear it," Dario said without hesitation, and no sooner had the words left his mouth than he was back on the streets of Halcyon City. He felt different, bigger, heavier, stronger. He looked down at his limbs, saw them covered with fur. He caught sight of his reflection in a shop window, saw a jaguar man looking back at him. "This is my gift to you," Papalotl's voice echoed in his mind. "Strength and speed and power. Now, do my bidding and rid me of my enemies." Dario raced forward. His mind was still catching up, but his body knew where it was going. His way was barred by creatures covered in blue feathers, half man, half bird. Dario's new claws shredding them like paper. Winged serpents fell from the sky, but Dario wrung their necks with his paws. Energy coursed through him. The power was intoxicating. And then he recognized where his feet had taken him. He was standing outside his own house. The windows were broken, the door off its hinges. The flashing lights of police cars lit up the street. Aunt Rosa was giving a statement to one of the officers, while Elena sat nearby, almost swallowed up by a large blanket. One of the officers raised his gun as Dario approached. "Stay back!" he yelled. But Dario kept coming, so the officer fired. Dario barely felt the bullet impacts. In a single bound, he was across the street, disarming the officer and hurling him into a parked car. Then he started to advance on Elena. Too late, Dario realized he had been duped. Too late, he realized that Papalotl was not the ally he had considered her to be. Too late, he realized that he was no longer in control of his own body. "Yes, my creature," Papalotl crowed. "Slay my enemy. Kill the chosen one." Dario loomed over Elena, hand raised, claws extended. His sister looked up at him, wide-eyed, perhaps not believing what she was seeing. And her blanket slipped, exposing the hummingbird necklace around her neck, a necklace that was glowing with a cool turquoise light, a light that became brighter and brighter. Dario flung up his arms to shield his eyes, but the light burned through his eyelids. He felt himself shrinking, his fur falling away, and when he opened his eyes, he was human again, and standing alone in a white void. He could hear the beating of a hummingbird's wings. "There is a war," said a voice. "A war between the light and the dark. You have been remade as a warrior in that war. I cannot undo that. However, you died trying to protect your sister, my chosen one. And for that I can give you a choice. Turn your back on Papalotl, on her army of darkness, and become my warrior of light. And together we can stop her snuffing out the sun." "And my sister?" Dario asked. "She has a destiny that will forever put her in danger," the voice said. "She requires a champion to defend her. Will you, Dario Sanchez, be that champion?" And so, Dario Sanchez became Nagual, the jaguar warrior, able to shift between human and beast forms at will. Now he serves the sun god, the left-handed hummingbird, ready to stand firm against the forces of darkness. And he knows that out there, somewhere, Papalotl, the obsidian butterfly, has neither forgiven nor forgotten his betrayal. So let's talk about the legacy, a character defined by their relationship to other heroes. In our campaign, that was Glitter, a valley girl with enhanced strength, speed and senses, daughter of two of the greatest superheroes of Halcyon City. Her legacy, and the dark secrets it hid, formed the backbone of our story, and I would not change Glitter for the world. But, that said, We're doing a thought experiment here, so let's cross the streams and consider, what if? Booker Lee came from a long line of superheroes. His grandfather, William Lee, had been the Time Hunter, one of the first of the Golden Age science heroes. Time Hunter did not have any superpowers, but he did have a time ship and a chronon gun, and he used both to patrol the time stream, battling villains and righting wrongs. All of this travel in a badly shielded time machine exposed his body to chronotron radiation, and this mutation was passed on to his son, Scott. At puberty, Scott developed the ability to stop time, to step between the seconds. He trained under his father's guidance, and eventually took on the mantle of Tempus Fugit, joining the elite, Halcyon's premier Silver Age superheroes. Tempus Fugit had many adventures, both in Halcyon City and beyond, battling villains such as Jack-in-the-Box, Dr. Fission, and the Copper Kestrel. His greatest nemesis, though, was Clockface, whose mad schemes spanned the prehistoric past to the far distant future. Whatever scheme he concocted, however, Tempus Fugit was always there to stop him. Time passed, and Scott wooed and married Barbara Fisher, the reformed villain Darkstar, who became part of the second incarnation of the Elite when the originals were lost in space searching for the Gems of Eternity. And when Tempus Fugit and Darkstar retired, they had a son, Booker. Booker Lee inherited his father's powers. He did not, however, inherit his father's control of them. His mother worried about him. His grandfather considered him a liability. But his father continued to train him, steadfastly believing in Booker's potential and hoping that one day Booker might take his place as a member of the Young Allies, with other children of the Elite. Booker failed repeatedly to pass that audition, though. He didn't mind all that much. He hated to disappoint his dad, sure, but he knew in his heart of hearts that Tempus Fugit's legacy was one that he could never live up to. Better to not even try. And then came that fateful day when Clockface returned. His scheme, by the villain's usual standards, was simple. Take some of history's greatest military commanders, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Attila. Equip them with troops and weaponry from the 32nd century and stage an invasion of the United States. The heroes fought valiantly, but the villains had strength of numbers as Clockface kept bringing in more and more warriors from further and further into the future. In the end, the only hope was to infiltrate Clockface's aerial headquarters, hovering over the Aegis Spire in the middle of Halcyon City. Scott Lee suited up as Tempus Fugit for one last adventure, and his wife, Darkstar, did the same. Since the only way to infiltrate the base was to use Time Hunter's time ship, whose technology was primitive enough not to be detected by Clockface's scans, crotchety William Lee agreed to come out of retirement. And then Tempus Fugit invited Booker to come with them. William and Barbara protested, but Scott insisted. This was a family affair. It was finally time for Booker to inherit his legacy. The four of them landed on board Clockface's aerial fortress. Time Hunter and Darkstar headed for the engines to create a distraction, while Tempus Fugit and his son snuck towards the centre of the craft and Clockface's time portal. There, high above the city, Tempus Fugit confronted his nemesis. As the two became locked in combat, Booker studied the time technology, but it meant nothing to him. He had no idea how to reverse or deactivate the time portal. In frustration, he called upon his powers, but with no way to control them, the time wave swept over everything. Time accelerated, slowed, reversed, all at the same time. Clockface panicked, and Tempus Fugit seized the opportunity, gaining a momentary upper hand over his enemy. But with time in flux, there was little more he could do. And then Booker started to hear it, the thrum of the engines, the beep, beep, beep of the control panels, the ticking at the heart of Clockface's costume. He focused on those rhythms, on the repetition. It calmed him, helped him focus, and for one brief shining moment, Booker Lee was in control. One moment was all his father needed. Tempest Fugit grabbed Clockface, dragged him over to the unstable time portal. He took one last look back at his son and smiled before hurling himself and Clockface into the void. And then Booker lost control again, and the portal imploded behind them. Darkstar was devastated by the loss of her husband, retreating in on herself, becoming a shell of the woman she once was. Time Hunter blamed Booker for the death of his son, cutting all ties with him and bad-mouthing him across the superhero community. And Booker? Booker has hope. You see, Booker does not believe his dad is dead. He believes that he is out there, somewhere, somewhen, lost to time, waiting for someone to come and find him. And Booker is going to be that someone, because diving back into his training, remembering how that rhythm helped him focus, Booker has found a way to control his powers. He needs a beat, any beat, and he's found it in the music he loves. A beat that he can align his temporal energies to. But controlling his powers is not enough. He needs something more. He knows he can't do this alone, so he needs friends who are willing to give him a second chance. Our final playbook for today is the outsider, the alien. But who could replace the shape-shifting, naive, loyal Indigo? Well, I have one idea. Those of you who watched my previous video may remember Finn Martin, my beacon concept, who discovered his superpowered skateboard when investigating a crashed alien spaceship. But what happened to the owner of that spaceship? Imagine a race of aliens made entirely of light. They don't live on a planet, but rather make their home in the corona of a star. But, like most civilizations as they develop, they want to explore beyond the confines of their realm, to boldly go and see what no star dweller has seen before. Alas, they soon discovered that their bodies could not survive outside their star, fading away to nothingness. Not to be undone, the Star Dwellers mined asteroids drawn close to their star, and they crafted, and they experimented, and they created craft that could carry them, sustaining their forms inside. In this way, the Star Dwellers started to explore their solar system. But it frustrated not being able to step beyond their craft, and so, over the generations, they developed personal life support units, worn like masks, to sustain the solidity of their form, while still allowing the Star Dwellers some control over their own shape and the light around them. The problem with exploration is that sooner or later you encounter new people, and those new people may have views that are different to yours, views that you object to. And when you are a race of light-based aliens with advanced technology, the simplest solution is to blast such people to Kingdom Come. In this way, the Star Dwellers expanded their empire, laying claim to star system after star system. So far, so bloodthirsty. But the problem with unrestricted expansion is that, sooner or later, you encounter someone bigger and stronger than you who wants to push back. That someone was the Kral, reptilian cyborgs with a penchant for strip mining planets of their resources and leaving dead husks in their wake. They didn't know what to make of the Star Dwellers, but they knew they didn't like them, and so began 6 decades of interstellar war. Enter the Prince, his given name unpronounceable in the tongues of Earth. A figurehead for his people to rally behind, a literal golden child, and the commander-in-chief of the armies of the Star Dwellers. Fortunately for the Star Dwellers, his commandership is purely an honorary title. The Prince knows little of military strategy and cares less, because the truth is that the Prince is a coward and wants as little as possible to do with the war. But a prince has to wave to the troops on occasion, and it was on one such trip to the front lines that his royal barge was shot out of the sky above Earth. The wreckage was quickly seized by Aegis, the superhero law enforcement agency in Halcyon City. The prince was captured and studied, and, when it was concluded that his threat level was minor, Aegis helped him to integrate into Earth society, all under the organization's strict supervision, of course. He has the ability to use his light-based powers to create a convincing holographic human appearance, and, using this and the civilian identity of Lucian Prince, he was enrolled at Nicholson High, where he soon crossed paths with other superpowered teens. The prince knows that his own people will be searching for him, but he has no desire to return and rejoin the war. In addition, he assumes the Kral are also hunting for him, because capturing or killing him would be a significant victory. So, the prince is on the lookout for allies to protect him as and when everything goes south. And this is how he finds himself part of a teen super team, patrolling the skies as the Golden Lumens, hoping against hope that his new teammates won't turn on him when they discover all the secrets he has been keeping. And that's the lot for today. 3 new character concepts for the Mask RPG. If you play Masks, or any other superhero RPG, feel free to steal these ideas in whole or part for your own games. And if you do, let me know how they turn out in practice. I'm really interested. There are still 3 more playbooks I haven't looked at: the Doomed, the Nova, and the Janus. So maybe there'll be a 3rd part of this series at some point in the future, and I can introduce all of you to Draugr, Kid Scapegoat, and Jackalope. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.